Welcoming our speaker, Mr. Ganga Prasad, Chief Technical Advisor, PRDC, our advisor and all the participants for the second session of day 4. I would like to request our advisor to introduce and invite our speaker. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dana. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Ganga Prasad.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, very good. I am happy to introduce the speaker of the session, Mr. Ganga Prasad, CTO of PRDC. He mainly worked in software research and development, both in government institutes like CDAC and in industry. He has over 37 years of experience. Has experience in hardware development on microprocessor-based controlling devices, worked in areas of design, development, and of products in parallel processing and real-time systems, fault-tolerant systems, and computer networks. He has worked in developing several innovative ICT technologies and tools for rural development. He was instrumental and involved in India's first email-based computer networking course way back in 1996-97. He was chairman of several research committees and project review groups. First independent research level was done by him for the SCADA, which won the Golden Eagle Award from IETE in 2004. He established several groups in CDAC like networks, graphics, training schools, real-time system, and ICT for development. He has co-authored a book on GUI, published over 15 research papers, both in national and international conferences, guided 200 BTech and 30 MTech students for their thesis. Current interest is IoT and cloud computing, big data analysis, analytics, health informatics, cybersecurity, and SCADA for smart grid. He is a senior member of IEEE, ACCS, IETE Fellow, CSI. He was a past president of and secretary of ACCS, that is Advanced Computing and Communication Society. He was vice chairman of IETE Bangalore Center. He is vice president of Encore Software Limited earlier, and he is now, he is working with PRDC. He had done his MTech in NIT Surathkal in electronics. As a great with experience he has in this field. We are going to have this lecture now. I hand over the platform to Ganga Prasad. Sir.
Thank you so much. I must thank the organizers for inviting me to this August gathering. We're all joined online. So it's a very interesting topic, and my personal welcome to each one of you to this particular session. Today, I'm going to talk on cybersecurity challenges in intelligent electricity. So before going into my actual talk, going into details of every aspects about whatever I have envisaged, I thought I will just briefly give one or two lines of what is that has given me a lot of interest in this particular area and what I have done in brief. Thanks to Sambandhan is giving a nice background, I just want to add 2 more lines to that. That will add a little more credibility to what I'm going to speak in the next 1 hour or so. In my career of 30 years at CDAC, Bangalore Center for Development of Advanced Computing, even though I have worked in parallel computing and computer graphics and many other areas, but one of my close to heart topic was the SCADA and automation, especially in the energy sector. So I have established a large group. Even today, they work on that particular area. We have worked right from embedded systems, developed RTU, and deployed in the state of Punjab State Electricity Board, and they used those RTUs for several years. And we developed the SCADA engine, which is specifically meant for transmission systems, load dispatch operations. It was operational in 3 major locations. That is Northern Region Electricity Board, Eastern Region Electricity Board, and several other state electricity boards also. So I was instrumental in developing that particular indigenously development. For the first time in the world, we introduced the fully fault tolerant distributed architecture. Of course, the expertise of parallel computing helped me in doing that. So we did that, and then slowly we moved on to a lot of other activities in terms of protocols and then communication aspects in the area of SCADA and energy sector automation. So a lot of protocols, proprietary to general purpose protocols and security based protocols, protocol engineering itself we did. And we gave a complete solution on protocol testing lab in CPRI, how a test suite can be built, and an ICCP complete test suite was developed and given to them. So my aspects just moved at that time into the security aspects, the cyber security challenges which were faced during 90s and late 90s and 2000s till now, of course, as the electricity moving to embrace and adopt ICT technology. So at that time, I did a lot of work in the area of cyber security and established the first ever cyber security SCADA testbed, which I'm going to talk about in my presentation in the middle where it is appropriate. So that I have got it developed, and even today that is being used actually. So later on, energy market services we entered, and today's entire all over India, all the 5 regions, the energy trading software is being used from the software which was pioneered and developed at CDAG by my team at that time. So with this little background, I took little extra time to add this particular thing. So I just wanted to put this background so that whatever I'm going to talk about, it will have a little more credibility in accepting what it is. So my agenda is something like this. It's not very great aspects, but several topics in detail I'm touching on during the process of my touching the various agenda points. Before entering into the details of the various aspects what I want to present here, the title, I need to have a little bit of clarity to that. Like, for example, I've used 4 major words in this. One is the electricity, other one is the intelligent systems, third one is the cyber security, especially connected with ICS, that is the industrial control systems, and the challenges in addressing the issues connected with cyber security mainly, but of course other aspects also in terms of building the intelligence into the system like. So that's what I'm basically touching on today. So electricity is a very important thing that if we don't understand the history, then we don't know that the gravity of how much we have adopted ourselves or how much we are attached to the electricity. You can think of one fine day, let's say you go to sleep in the night and then get up in the morning and the whole world, there is no electricity. Can you imagine such kind of a scenario? That absolutely not. It's going to be, because that is how it has, that electricity has gone into our life. As all of you know that 1880s and 1890s, we saw the electricity war. Everybody is aware of it. I'm not going to the details about it. And AC won that war and then led AC grids world over, and that led world over since 1900s. And 1930 saw the public electric grids. Since then, it was privately connecting the supplying the electricity to the homes or industry or public places and things like that. But 1930 saw that the various governments across the country found that it is very important the public intervention is required, because it was not going kind of the way in which that every individuals or every kind of sector, the industry were not getting the right share of this electricity what is generated. So 1930 saw the real intervention of the public electric grids. And then, of course, India also at that time, it was growing, electric grids were going on slowly. In 1947, when India got independence, India had at that time 1.3 gigawatts of roughly, I'm saying, power generated across the country. And today it has grown to approximately 400 gigawatts in early 2020. I mean, that is the approximate value. So that means to say in about 60, 70 years, we have grown 300 times. It is not a small figure, which is monumental in nature. And the way in which it was growing, that it is, and the technology of bringing these electricity from the generation to the end user, like, you know. So one of the beauty of the systems, especially in Indian electrical grid, is that it has a very nicely structured 5 regions. And today it is the single largest grid in the world, because these regions are interconnected with HVDC connectivity and for bulk transmission of power, evacuation of power from one region to another region. Today we can have the capability from Punjab, electricity can be used in Bangalore or any of the southern part of the country, like. So this is the very brief history, you know, like that is how we are actually growing in. It's basically in the need of the hour, that is how it was growing, like. So electricity over a period of time has become a very complex system. When initially it was invented, it is like, okay, it was electricity generated and then it was to power the bulb or a fan or a motor and things like that. It was a very simple system when it was invented and started using. Even in 1930s, it was not that complex. But over a period of time, because of the multi-generation, that is a multi-stakeholder generation, like generations of different types and different vendors and different set of people, maybe different country, like, you know, several places between the countries the power sharing and power transmission do happen. So the multi aspects have added, like multi-stakeholders, different types of stakeholders. I'm going to touch on very briefly in between about the stakeholders. You will be, it's a mind-blogging figures actually sometimes. The multi-vendor, like, you know, I'm just still talking, not yet introduce the ICT as a technology on top of the electric network. There itself you will find a multi-vendor system. The cable is manufactured or supplied by n number of people across the world. The connectivity, connectors, everything. You know, there are several components which comes into the picture. There are multi-vendors in that. Very highly dynamic users. Today users, you cannot categorize only home user, only this industry, that industry, like that. There are different types of ICT industry uses electricity in a different way. Electric charging vehicles uses a different way, like that. Then very versatile business cases. You know, business cases are like people do want to do a very good business out of it. Initially, once the public entities, the governments took over the electrical system, it was not a big business case. But over a period of time, it became very essential that business case is very important. People have to get into the business model of the electricity and things like that. And also it became more and more so at small consumers, the end users, home users are becoming the stakeholders in that with the invention or intervention of the renewables and etc. like. So by today's model, we can probably divide the entire system, this complex system, into a 5 major activities. One is the generation part, still very complex because generation happens physically very distant apart, and different type of generation is happening, especially in the renewables got added into that, generations to happen in a totally different way. In fact, even the storage getting into the grid makes the generation very complex system like. Then transmission, because bulk transmission, the generation do happen at different places. The transmission, that is evacuation of this power which is generated from one point to another point, a long distance, is a very dynamic thing. And we cannot have one generation and set of users connected. Several generations have generating plants have to be connected into the single network like. So transmission is another one. Distribution, the people understand these three very clearly, but the other two are becoming very important. That is the microgrid and the home automation. These are the ones which are actually adding major impact into the smart grid and the intelligent electricity systems like. So the component of, when I'm talking about the cyber security bringing into the system, is actually to make it simpler, is the ICT interventions. When it got added into the whole system, that is where our cyber security aspects and the intelligence component got added into this. Little bit of history I want to look at it here, that how ICT intervention started. It is not just abrupt overnight, it got added into the entire electrical system. In 1970s saw the extensive use of communication and then the computers in load dispatch and monitoring of mainly the transmission part of it. This is what actually, you can say, kind of beginning of the ICT intervention in the electricity. Generation had local automation for better production capacity. Only that part it was going on, and the bulk of ICT aspects were not there in the initial stage, but later on, because the generation is the key aspect in the entire electrical dynamics, so that ICT intervention went into the, especially when the nuclear and the thermal systems got into the entire system like. But in the 90s, we saw a huge intervention of ICT-E. I'm adding E here because electronics component, that is various devices in terms of where your RTUs or communication modems and various other intelligent relays and things like that into the entire electrical industry. Like 90s saw a huge surge in actually the many electrical companies embracing this ICT as a technology into their system. Okay. Even though it was in silo, but it get into the little later part of it, late 90s or early 2000s, we see that enterprise systems are also invading into the SCADA, they had the bottom line to add the intelligence into the entire system. Thus, the intelligent electricity was born. I mean, that is where the intelligent, this led to adding intelligence. No, it's a very important component here. Intelligence is basically to see the, like for example, how the consumer is using, based on the usage of the system, the type of generation is being added automatically like. So that is the kind of intelligence I'm talking about on top of it. Thus, the intelligent electricity was born during that time, where ICT in every step of the model, the electricity model, whatever we call, that in that every step this ICT intervention we see there, without which your intelligence cannot be added into theirs. Then automation and smart way of operation in every phase of electricity system, that automation is added. That is, the decisions have to be automatically taken, the actions have to be automatic, the reactions have to be automatic, the monitoring has to be automatic. These are the kind of automation got added in a smarter way. More or less one step forward from the smart grid is what I call it as an intelligent electricity like. IE stands for the intelligent electricity and its typical requirements. Let us gather some few components, few points by which we call the system, an electrical system, we call the intelligent electricity part of it. It has to be able to adjust to the demands and available generations. What I meant is a demand, different types of demands and different needs at different places, and available of generation, where it is available, what type of electricity is available, and what is at what cost is in a generation of the electricity which is available like. Then correct automatically. Self-healing is the most important component, because we have been seeing in several, at least 2-3 decades, that there are certain times big blackouts and large damages which are taking place in the entire system, causing a lot of loss and discomfort to the users and things like that. This needs to be touched on or taken care in the automatic manner, what is known as the self-healing model, in which there are systems floating in the entire system where which keeps checking for if there is any issues or if there are any damage likely to happen in future. That is, so forecasting comes into picture and then takes care automatically. Self-healing. After the healing is done, the information is passed on to the operator or the user or the owner or the vendor, and then see that appropriate action at a later part is taken care. So the users or the consumers are not getting affected. So self-healing is a very important component of the IE. Should be able to interact with all the components. See, one end to the other end, there are several components. We see various components, whatever you think of as a component, whatever I am adding as ICT are this components, and what you don't see as the software models or the forecasting tools and things like that are also as components. These components have to be communicatable. They should be able to interact each other like in any manner. Today IoT as a technology has come. We introduce IoT as a technology for this. We use machine learning tools into this so that they interact each other. So this kind of interaction is very important, without which the appropriate self-healing model, self-healing actions, or the adjusting the demands and the available generation cannot be done. So predictive in nature for better management. Better management, what I meant is actually in 2-3 aspects. One is in the better generation model. Now, how much we have to actually generate, we should not be wasting things. How much actually the loads which are required at what point. So they have to be predictive. Now we should be able to predict this kind of thing. We should be able to do that kind of thing. It is not just stops there. We should be able to predict the maintenance schedule of the transformer or a generator or a motor or a transmission line or a tower and things like that. So we should be able to have that kind of a predictive model like. So then the artificial intelligence or the intelligent model for this electricity comes into picture for a better management. Better management will give you a better quality of power to the end user and at an appropriate and an efficient model like. And distributed architecture to support islands and priorities. It is also very important an aspect connected with this, is that actually in case of a failure, maybe because of the calamity or natural calamity or failure of some system and things like that, then automatically instead of the entering into the blackout situation, automatically it should support making into the islands where the appropriate generations are also taken care and the priorities are taken care. Priorities can be like, for example, the steel plant furnace cannot be switched off, because once the furnace is switched off, the furnace has to be dismantled and a new furnace has to be done. So because of the molten steel, which molten iron, which just once it falls below, then obviously nothing can be done for that kind of things. So I'm just giving one example. The priority is also very, very importantly. Then autonomic maintenance schedules that I already touched upon, I said, then it should be secure and reliable. It's very important. When I say it is reliable, is like, for example, tomorrow or next month I want to take certain action and I expect that so much of power is available, and if it is not available, if it is 10% less or whatever, then it is not reliable. And also it should be secure. This is one of the main topics that I'm going to talk about in future, like the use of ICT in most of the stages. So every stages ICT has to be there. With these kind of components, largely we can call a system as intelligent electricity in the electrical domain. So how a typical structure would look like? You see the picture on the screen, whatever has come now, where top of the line you see the at the left end of the place where it is depicted as a generator, and then it is monitored. There are some people sitting at how much it is generated and things like that. Then it is transmitted over transmission lines, you see that, and then it comes to a distribution transformer, and then after that it gets distributed. Finally it goes to a house, is in the information just shown here. It can be a factory or anything like that. Below you see here, from the one end to the other end, you see an ICT environment, that is a computer system, then the modems and communication, then the network tower, that is the radio communication and things like that through modem or a satellite, or can be a mobile communication at the end, like. So this is a typical infrastructure. How, if we integrate these two, becomes an intelligent system. So it is overlapped at every point. Means to say, where actually it's generated from generating to the end users, the ICT components are added into that to make an electricity environment an intelligent environment. So this is a typical. Then what are the various components associated with that? So we need to have a real-time simulation. I'm just depicting here real-time simulation end to end. It should need to be there, because without the simulation you will not be able to do a prediction analysis. Then wide area reliability. Wide area reliability means, because you see electrical system is a very has got a very specific nature, in the sense when the electricity is generated, after the generation it has to be used immediately, because you cannot store it in such large quantity. Of course, we have battery system and things so that we can store to some extent. We cannot store much larger components, but if we were to have a very large storage capability, in fact, we could have connected a lightning and then stored a large quantity of electricity, and it could have been used months together with one single lightning event. So, but that's not the case, like. So wide area reliability is a very important component here. Then network optimization. What I mean network here is, it is not the electrical network I'm saying, it is the intelligence part. That means the ICT network part of it has to be properly optimized part of it, like. That's very important. Then customer participation is one of the very important, which was not the case when electricity was invented and started using and distributing and then supplying the electricity for lighting and things like that. That was not the case at that time. Today, customer is one of the major stakeholder, and his or her satisfaction is very important in the entire system. So their participation is a very important component. Then participation in energy markets. It is like in any other market scenario where you are selling soap or selling any other noodles or any other component, where you have a market scenario in which so many people are supplying, understand where demand is more and then how they do. So here also is a similar thing. The energy market is, see, energy market is a little, the dynamics are slightly different. It is like, for example, you have to say, a generating plant has to say tomorrow or next 15 days or next 6 months, what is the generation I can do? That is what I have to give it to the transmission agency and finally distribution agency and things like that. Because they have to schedule, saying that this is what is the power that I can give you tomorrow. This is what is the power I can give you day after tomorrow. In this feeder I can supply this much energy. In this feeder I can supply different set of energy, like. So today's distribution generating agencies are giving whatever power. It may not be enough for me next week. Then I need to purchase that power from somewhere else, which needs to be get connected to my grid. So it becomes a very dynamic kind of situation, and then it needs to be adjusted at actual time. So I have given the schedule tomorrow, but tomorrow that much actual generation may not happen, or the generation happens little extra. Then I need to appropriately utilize economic based, then, because I need to say cheaper power I need to take more, and the costlier power I need to take it at lower quantity, like. But if the cheaper power is not available, obviously I need to buy the costlier power at that particular point of time. So that is how I keep adjusting these kind of things, right? So participation of energy markets is very important. Now let's just quickly run through. I'm not going to the in detail part of it. I just wanted to highlight what is the kind of stakeholders categories which are there in an intelligent environment, like right from academia, R&D organization also, because academia and R&D organization also participate as a stakeholder, because academia is very important for training and bringing the human resource, smart human resources in the entire system, like. The professional societies are very important for building the standards and protocols and the interoperable details, how the interoperability can be brought into that, for which some aspects about it. State and local regulators, because they have to be appropriately used. Somebody should not be simply wasting the electrical energy where somewhere else is really demand available, like. So venture capitals are required is because venture capitals, new devices and optimal devices, newer technologies have to be brought in, then obviously the venture capitalists are going to play a major role. That's why you will see Power Finance Corporation was started in India a few years back. They are the one who are actually financing the new systems, new generating plants or newer power sources and things like that. So it is very important. It is just not only generating people or transmission or distribution or end user, home or factory are the only stakeholders. Stakeholders are many in this actually. So that is why it becomes security is becoming very important, and the interconnection and the standardization is very important. Then in general, there are 4 important aspects any component in the whole system or any vendor, any stakeholder has to consider in this in a properly running intelligent electricity system. One is the efficiency. It's very important. Efficiency is very important. Ability to exchange data in real time, basically, and that is a very efficient system. Then it should be reliable. Basically, it has to be reliable in terms of the data, whatever is required at particular point of time is made available at particular point. That is reliable, is very important. And if a particular hardware or a link or a communication fails, then obviously reliability, we need to have a parallel route for such kind of things. If a particular system fails, then you should have a parallel redundant system or a redundant functionality which is available. Then security, just be the information should be available and secrecy has to be maintained, and an integration of those kind of information has to be done securely. Then low cost. It is also important because in an intelligent electric environment, we are looking at very large number of very widespread and very large numbers of installations or usage of various components. So if their costs are high, they become forbidden, and then the usage become impossible. So the cost has to be low cost. What I meant low cost is that it is not that it should be available in rupees or anything like that, but it should be reasonably costed. That's a very important component. Then let us come to a very important point here is why the need of this cybersecurity arose because of all these interventions. One, in the architecture. Let us look at the architecture. Initially, what was happening was a proprietary and a vendor controlled environment was there for architecture. During that time, there is no big need of cybersecurity. But over a period of time, it became open and proprietary. So because it is open, because one system is from one vendor, another system is another vendor. So they need to talk to each other because overall system has to be properly controlled. So architecture is becoming more and more open. So when it is open, then it is becoming vulnerable. So obviously we need to talk about the security aspects of that particular aspect. Then in the communication, only WAN and limited communication with RTUs or basic functions or dedicated lines were used initially. And today it's an external communication, public supported communication networks are used for these kind of things, interconnecting the RTUs and various components of the network. This makes system open for public, open for public or open for more stakeholders. So that means there are more chances or more vents for the security breach can happen. If we talk in the communication protocols, what we saw the communication equipment in the protocols, earlier it was a proprietary type of protocol. Specifically, all companies, Siemens or ABB, Allen Bradley, everybody was using their own particular communication protocol, which was not revealed to the others. So it was highly secure, unless otherwise from the same company, somebody who is aware of these protocols are doing some breach operation in that. Other than that, the communication security issue was kind of closed environment. But today it is an open architecture, open standard, and a general purpose protocol details which are available, which are generally built by IEEE or ISO and things like that. We'll just see who are all the stakeholders who basically bring in standards at that particular time. But it opens up various cybersecurity issues. So that's a very important. That's why we need cybersecurity. taken into consideration. Next is coming the redundancy. We are talking about redundancy was initially primary and backup model. That is kind of hot standby which is situated in one room and things like that. But today we have moved out of that distributed architecture. This is what I was talking about. The first time we introduced this in 1995 when we built the state load dispatch center operation, completely distributed architecture. Because it was a kind of distributed architecture is coming to picture, it's just given a lot of leverage, like in terms of cost was low, the easily available off the shelf components can be added to this to achieve the result whatever we wanted. But unfortunately, it opens up few things of in terms of the either in the fault tolerance or on the weak points which are publicly made available, like because it's a distributed architecture. So security it becomes vulnerable. So security is a very important component there. Then processing capabilities. See, we have a processing capabilities. It was very limited initially, very limited processing capabilities, which was one single CPU or a CPU situated in one box and things like that. So there was no issue of the vulnerability in that. But when the distributed processing that we entered into, it is going on a LAN or a WAN type of environment in which I have one function running in one place, another function is running in another building maybe or whatever. So there is a communication associated with that, and then there is a breach that can happen in between. So cyber security is a very important thing. Then disaster survivability is that in earlier situation it was not at all available. Disaster survivability, that is a DR architectures were not there, but today with the distributed architecture DR becomes a very easy and under a WAN environment, but it has got vulnerability issues which are thrown in. So because of these set of points, the vulnerability increased drastically. With the comfort that we are looking at it, we added using the ICT environment. Obviously, we need to look at the cyber security issues. Like in another kind of environment, even with the kind of LAN and various WAN type of environment, we used to have an enterprise. At the bottom, at the top, you see here level 4 and level 5. This is the Purdue model I have just taken. It is it was used in several places in the electrical industry. Level 4 and 5 are the one which are actually used the enterprise zone, enterprise security zone. That was totally in that place. And then the level 0 to level 3 are basically your drive sensors, and then to the SCADA network and things like that. And they were not interconnected. They were interconnected to a demilitarized zone, which are interconnected to a completely secure. But with the connectivity to the enterprise network is across the on the internet, so it throws up certain vulnerabilities. Like, so it can be looked at in a slightly different type of architecture. Is like you have a corporate LAN separately, which is the top of the system, the control system LAN, which is at the bottom, totally segregated. Then you don't have any issue of in terms of the security activity. But if you see the green block which came on top now, which basically connects in terms of the data acquisition server, maybe database servers, configuration server, engineering workstations, the historians and various systems which basically talk to both corporate network as well as the control system network, they become the vulnerable environment. So these are the components which are very important for us to understand why cybersecurity is very, very essential and very important. Like, now let us see the intelligent electric environment, why it is a target for cyber attacks. If you see the few components I have just dropped here, basically an electrical environment is a huge and very huge national asset. So any attack, like for example, people are talking about the third war is not going to happen physically; it is going to happen on internet. Internet, what it means is that people want to attack. They are just trying to attack the national assets. See, it's very easy target in the sense if the electrical environment is made available on ICT environment and the internet, so they become a very good target for attack. So that's a very important aspect. That's why huge amount of money the countries or the agencies or intelligences spend in basically trying to attack such kind of systems. So we need to guard these things. Increased use of IP and commercial off-the-shelf IT products. Off-the-shelf products, if you use, that is where it becomes they have to be certified and they have to be guarded against various attacks and things like that. So the cyber attacks becomes easier if you start using these kind of things. Internet was not used so much earlier, so electrical systems were safe to that extent. The off-the-shelf products were not used. If you use, let's say, Siemens, we use always Siemens systems. If you use ABB, I'll use only ABB. It is not like that today. I buy the computer from what is available in the market and then put it and then put the software of Siemens or anybody, and that becomes a vulnerable system. Like network connectivity, number of the third party or the number of agencies will be, cyber will be provided by somebody, Wi-Fi will be provided someone else, and things so that they become vulnerable. Traditionally, low cyber security focus. See, this is a very important point. Generally, in electrical industry, if you go and talk to people about security, oh no, it's not required. We are always safe, and we take care of things very well without any worry about it, and things like that. So we don't need to worry about it. Traditionally, this is the case with the that is why one of the very important point I'm adding it later, connecting with this particular aspect. It is a challenge to balance operational goals and security goals. Like for example, the cost comes into a picture here because operational goals are basically I want to see that electricity is delivered. That's my goal. But how it is delivered, is it securely and things like that, I'm adding additional cost to it, then I may not want to do it. So it is a kind of a balance that we need to do it. This challenge also makes the cyber attackers more and more easier or looking at that particular thing. Now, at this point, I just want to mention some few names. All of you might be aware of it. Generally, in an industrial control environment, there are few attacks which have happened earlier. You will see that, like for example, in Uzbekistan, drinking water distribution was attacked, and the water was not available. They did not know how to do it, and things like that. That is a very popular case. In Iran nuclear plant, the configuration management system was hacked, and then the nuclear power plant was not even starting itself because of this particular thing. Then German ransomware, after the introduction of the IoT components into the steel plants there, the several steel plants were attacked using the loopholes which are available in the IoT environment, were called the ransomware, which is very popularly known. Even today, nobody knows how much money they lost. Then Lucknow petrol pump, the lot of petrol were siphoned off without giving any money. When the automatic vending machines were introduced in Lucknow, all of you must be aware of these kind of things. So these are all actually the numbers looks little smaller compared to that of in the IT industry. How attacks are happening like. Okay, so to address this particular security aspects. Okay, we have to be guarding ourselves very important here, because these electrical environment, when actually as in the grid environment, if you want to simulate and see how these attacks or security concerns or may be there, or this line, this feeder, this substation, or this particular substation or network is at risk, or what risks that which can be there, in the real system it cannot be done. So obviously you need an intelligent electricity security test bed. So that is what I'm just trying to put across here. A security test bed is very important for such kind of an environment, and there is a big challenge in addressing this particular. That's the reason I just bring in this particular point here. An IE system are vulnerable as IT systems, as well as the IE is as vulnerable as IT systems, and in addition, additional threats can come into this place. Like for example, there is an information coming from a feeder what is the voltage which is in a monitoring system? I am seeing that it is, let's say, 220 kV line, so it is about 220. But in between, when it is hacked, somebody is trying to give a wrong information saying that it is 190 or tending to 180. Then the operator tend to increase the generation value. But actually, it is 220 only. But the generation is increased by another 30. Then it becomes 220, becomes 250. But still, the value which may be coming, which is malfunctioning, an error is being introduced by an intruder, so it may cause damages like. Okay, and also systems are in place decades, several years it has been there, systems are there. We cannot go and touch and modify anything to that. So obviously you need a test bed to see this particular thing. Cyber security analysis of these systems. We need to do an analysis of these existing systems. When this ICT intervention is added, what kind of threat it can throw on us. So that analysis itself is a very significant challenge. We need to have a test bed for such kind of things. A traditional technique such as vulnerability assessments is not going to help. As a consequence of that, a cyber attack on these IE systems are often unknown. Many times we don't know what exactly it happens. Unless otherwise we simulate and see, we may not know about it. That's why we need this kind of an environment like. You can see here in this particular slide which I have brought in, there are 10 very important components which I am going to briefly talk on in the next slides. You just see here the vulnerability research has to be done in this area. This is very important. Vulnerabilities in terms of each component which is added, how it is vulnerable. Like for example, the ICT component becoming vulnerable is one. The actual electrical component becoming vulnerable is another one. Like for example, I have a transformer and I have an ICT system associated with to control the transformer. Okay, various components. There may be its switching capability. So, but by somebody who's hacking, he may actually change these tappings, and then its performance goes into haywire like. So these are very important. So vulnerability research in this area is a component is very important. Then impact analysis is a very important aspect which has to be there in the test bed, because what will be the impact if this particular attack happens? A different type of attacks. We need to list down these attacks and say each attack how its impact is going to be there in terms of the business aspect, in terms of generation, in terms of transmission, in terms of reliability, in terms of various parameters like is it going to affect the voltage, is it going to affect frequency, or it is going to affect phase and things like that. So the impact analysis component is very important. Then mitigation evaluation is also important. Like for example, when such a kind of attack happens, how it is going to be mitigated by an operator or a set of operators who are sitting at the system like. So the mitigation evaluation has to be done. We have to simulate such condition and see how the mitigation can be appropriately address this particular thing. Then cyber physical metrics is also very important. See, test beds to actually produce an environment where controlled evaluation can be performed to support metrics development and evaluation. The appropriate metrics of the physical and the cyber, that is the ICT added to the physical system becomes a cyber physical system. How the cyber physical system together perform. So that metrics has to be developed. Like if there is a change, let's say for example, if something wrongly indicated as a voltage change which is coming to a transformer, how the transformer with its electronics is going to behave with this wrong information. So that kind of a metrics have to be built, which can be done only with these kind of test beds. The data on the model development. So with the network architecture, we get the data through a data acquisition system, various parameters, voltage, frequency, MVR, power factor, all these parameters that we get. How these data which is acquired in a redundant model, or the data, whether it is a valid data, whether it is a corrupted data, whether it is the wrong data, or the particular device is malfunctioning, or the communication is malfunctioning. This data model development is a very important. If this model is actually, when it is used in the actual system, it will give a very clear picture in terms of how, if some data is missing, still we'll be able to manage and monitor the whole system. Like that is the way. Then security validation. So security validation is also a very important component. Here, I get a software system or a hardware system or any equipment which is with ICT enabled, which is going to be on internet probably. I can bring that and put it in the test bed and then do a validation saying that how secure is this particular system. How secure the system with the intervention of this system, like this component into the system. So that validation is also very important. It cannot be done online. Obviously, you need a similar system, simulated environment. Then comes the interoperability. Interoperability has to be checked whether a particular new device or the existing device, when it is modified, whether they are appropriately communicating each other where it is supposed to be, like. So that kind of interoperability can be checked and tested and certified only in a kind of test bed environment. Cyber forensics is an afterthought action. Like, for example, somewhere some faulty device is there, or which is having some vulnerable point, and then it was exposed for some attack. Then such kind of a device can be completely isolated, brought back to this kind of a test bed, and then a forensic analysis can be done. Where exactly, what is the fault in that? Where is the breach? Where is the loophole? Where is the point in which that attackers were able to enter into the system, like. So that forensics can be added into this. Then comes the very important component is the operator training, like. So if people who are actually involved in the operations of the entire system, they have to be trained, like, because then we need to know their response. We need to tell them that if this happens, this is the action that you have to take. If this is the alarm to be raised, this is the thing which we have to find out. Oh, this is not the problem. This is only a faulty information that has to be isolated. All several actions that need to be done in a complex environment, they have to be trained. In the actual system, you cannot train them because they cannot operate back on that. You cannot switch off a circuit breaker just like that by seeing something or by mistake that he does it. So these kind of things have to be operated. You need a test bed where operator training can be completely given, both in terms of actual operation, also in terms of the attack scenarios, how to behave, how to take care of those kind of things, how to isolate the attacked environment, or a particular subsystem can be removed, like. So test beds really help in that direction. Operator training is a very, very important component. The next comes the physical component and their simulation, like. So very important. Physical simulation, like PMU is there. Well, I have a PMU, I bring a PMU and connect and see, okay, this how it behaves in the entire system in terms of the security aspects and in terms of the operational aspects, and in terms of the security breach can happen in another system by adding into this. But it is not enough. For example, I want to know how 1,000 PMUs which are put in the network, how it is going to behave. So then I can't bring 1,000 PMU and connect it into this network. Instead, what I can do is I can have a simulator of that particular component, that PMU, let's say, and then have an instances of so many those simulations, and then see as if 1,000 PMUs are added and how it behaves on the in terms of the affecting the security aspects or whatever. Whether the security functions perform properly with the load of these 1,000 equipments, 1,000 components added into this, or 5,000 of this and 10,000 of something else. The performance is also very important, because a particular action has got, let's say, 5-second duration. If the security analysis itself is going to take more than 5 seconds, it's not going to function at all properly. It is like weather information. Like for example, if the weather forecast, if the weather forecasting model takes tomorrow's information, if it is going to take 3 days to analyze and give me, that day of information which I wanted is already passed. So it becomes redundant information. So this is also a very important component. This is a typical architecture which was a test bed when I was in CDAC. We built that particular test bed. We can see various components which are there, including the corporate component network, then the process control network, then firewall, then the demilitarized zone, data historian. Most of the components are not actual components, they are all simulated environments, then RTUs, then physical components, sensors and things like that. Including the sensors, it can be simulated. in a test bed environment, because it is essential, because we need to choose. When you want to choose a particular sensor, I will be able to have the simulated that sensor and see how it behaves, and if it is not functioning properly for me to the appropriate actions, then I can change the parameters of a sensor and then appropriately choose a particular other sensor for this purpose. So this was the situation. Then what are the important features that it has to have in terms of the functions, not in terms of the components, but in terms of the functions. It should be basically tailor-made for IE. You cannot have a test bed which is done for a data center can be used for this purpose. It has to be tailor-made because the industrial control system for a ICS environment is different. So it has to be tailor-made for such kind of things. Various simulations should be available. Any component should be able to have a simulation for that in terms of its own attack scenarios. Then we need to have an analysis and its logs. Operational dashboard should be there, like I should be able to, in a kind of a real-time environment, I should be able to operate on that and then get it. Data aggregation facility should be there, logging and things like that, behavior of malwares, various things like we should be able to have the web-based administration, because we are talking about internet scenario. Let us look at a little bit, because we are talking about cyber security as one of the most important component in this environment. This is the industrial control environment. The electricity environment is also industrial control environment. What is so special about ICS? So that is what I wanted to see, that because this is a very important driving factor. That is the reason why one has to look at security specific to ICS, not what is publicly available for general IT systems like. See, let me put the difference between an IT system and an ICS system. You will be able to understand better. The components are similar, but the order in which they are looked at. In an IT system, we see confidentiality is very important. Integrity comes next, and then the availability as the last point. Whereas in a control system environment, electricity system, let's say, availability is very important. Your system, any system put into the ICS system, availability is very important. Then integrity comes the second point. Then the confidentiality is the last priority. Because of this priority order, the solutions for security, cyber security solutions, will have to be slightly different. The impact of risk of loss of data, financial loss of business is there in the IT system. Whereas in ICS system, impact of risk is loss of equipment or loss of environment or loss of human life. We are looking at that. So the priority is loss of business in the IT system, whereas the priority is the equipment or the quality of the outcome or the human life is very important in case of anything. In case of an IT system, any system can be rebooted anytime, any number of times, it does not matter, because it is accepted there during that time, because it can be recovered and things like that. Whereas in case of a ICS system, it is not acceptable. Reboot of a system is not acceptable. If you, in case of some malfunctioning, immediately if you reboot the system, you lose a lot of data. So that is very important actually. So that is the difference. In terms of the performance requirements, performance is like general IT system is not real time in sense, whereas control system is a real time. If something has to happen in 2 minutes, it has to happen in 2 minutes. Correctness of information. In case of information, IT system, information has to be accurate, whereas in case of a control system, the response that is very important. The value is not that very important many times. Like for example, I want to sense a temperature. If the temperature is 15.2 degrees, let's say, instead of 15.2 degrees, 15.3 degrees, if it comes, it is okay for me. But the response for that particular temperature is very important for me. Within certain allowable time, it should happen. Delay is allowed in case of IT systems, whereas delay is absolutely not tolerated in the control system. Like planned tasks and sequential tasks. Sequential tasks are with this task, like that. The order of tasks are very important. Whereas in case of information general IT system, they are need not be in that particular order. Sometimes it can be jumbled and things like that. task loss by data corruption, economic loss by casualty. That's the difference. Restoration by rebooting is accepted, whereas it is not so in this case of a control system like. Outages are accepted to some extent in IT system. It doesn't matter, like for example, my email is not working for half a day, it's okay. But whereas in case of a ICS system, no, absolutely not. There is a huge loss can happen if, for example, an oil plant, a few controllers are not functioning, then oil production itself stops. A few billions of oil production stops. Not acceptable. Configuration changes are permissible. Usually configuration changes are accepted, whereas in case of an ICS system, configuration changes are not acceptable because there is a huge permissions which are required. It may take its own sweet time. Configurations have to be planned because they have a lot of effect on their outcome or the results or the business platforms. Operating systems, there is a huge difference actually. General, any OS is okay for an IT perspective, whereas a real-time operating, so ICT generally operates in a real-time operating system or sometimes even only firmware. So because it has to work in a constrained environment, time is an essential component there, and reliability is an essential component. Like very highly, the constraints are all not at all important in case of an IT. You have enough memory, this thing, and it operates in a controlled temperature and things like that. Whereas here in the ICS system, it is not so. So it is actually a very highly constrained environment. So even introducing the security aspects, it becomes very difficult, very the memory and the resources itself may not be available to add additional features into that to take care of the security aspects. Generally, in a single discipline is followed in an IT perspective, computer science, electronics, or whatever. If it is known, that is enough. Whereas in case of an ICT perspective, one has to understand the information system, communication, the dynamics of the particular application. If it is an oil dynamics are required. Domain expertise is a very important thing, including the business aspects. How efficiently it can be generated, like losses have to be minimized. So obviously the interdisciplinary topic is there required in ICT perspective. That's why the kind of skill sets which are required is different. In a typical one block diagram, I can say in a general IT environment, security architecture will be a slightly different, where the primary goal in case of a general IT system is assets, whereas in case of the control system, it is the field devices which are very, very important. Like for example, I cannot lose the transformer, I cannot lose the generator and things like that. So there are number of challenges which are associated. This is another very important component of this talk. So I'm just running through some few of the very important slides. This is the hacking methodology. I'll skip this particular thing because that is not that essential. There are 8 important challenges which I see in a security implementation in an ICS environment, which is very appropriate for an intelligent electricity system like. To start with, it is the patch management. The patch management is a very important thing. The patch management, in the sense, when there is some changes takes place, we need to have an upgraded version of the system. Little bit of some functions have to be added. Some particular option it is not functioning, so I need to add. So do a patch management. So we need to have a proper patch management policy for this, and a prior planning of the patch management is very important. So there is a challenge associated with this because it has to have at a particular location and kind of constrained environment. I don't know whether that patch will work or not. So these kind of things, a patch management policy is very important in this case. So testbed actually gives a very good model for making sure that patch management can be done properly like. In an interoperability is another thing because multiple vendors are there, multiple protocols will be there, and they need to be talking to each other, and the right type of data has to go at the right time. So, but we need to look at how this challenge can be addressed, because it's one of the major challenge, because compatibility itself is a difficult thing. I mean, the type of communication, type of systems and type of data which is exchanging itself is a very challenging task, where we can have an open broker architecture and then test bed for testing the various components will give a very potential solution to see that before actually it is implemented, interoperability is taken care like. Communication with the outside network is also a very challenging thing, because there can be, when there is a communication with the outside network, a lot of vulnerable points get into, and they basically introduce a lot of attack scenarios and then becomes seriously vulnerable, without which you will not be able to service the function, but obviously the kind of open happens. So it is not just a firewall which can support this kind of things. So you need to think about a unidirectional data diode. Difficult to implement, but there is a challenge associated, because whenever there is a communication happening from source 1 to destination 1, the communication line should always allow flow of data only one direction. So if that is the case, then you may not know, because you need to have an acknowledgement and things like that. So implementation of unidirectional data diodes is one of the complex scenario, but of course it is required, essential. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to have a completely secured communication with the outside network. Reporting of incidences is also a very challenging thing. Like a particular incident, you don't know exactly how this particular incident has happened. You know, without knowing it, knowledge itself, without before even that is being reported and then taken care. So it may actually one more attack can happen and further damage can happen. Like so, reporting these incidents becomes a very essential thing. So solution, of course, India has a system like a certain type of environment, but certain system generally supports only the IT kind of environment. But you need to have something a certain specific to these kind of a real-time systems kind of environment, that is ICS type of environment, and document all these kind of attacks, vulnerabilities, and various things which immediately can be informed, and also it can have these kind of certain type of things can have radars in place, that is called the vulnerability radars, which usually on a time basis across the various installations of, let's say in the case of electrical system, the entire electrical system all over India, let's say for example, it keeps on checking whether there is any vulnerable spots which are open and things like that. So that can be a potential solution. Otherwise, is one of the very complex thing, but because one attack which has happened in one place, same thing can happen tomorrow in some other place. If this particular information is flown across the entire place, if there is one attack happens, that can be taken care much ahead of time. The authentication issues is one of the another major issue, because a particular change, whether it is, say for example, I go and do a configuration change, whether I am authorized to do that, whether the authentication of the right systems is very important. When new system is getting added, whether they have to be authenticated properly before doing bringing into the test beds will really help in this particular direction. And also adhering to standards in this particular thing. It's a very important thing, whether irrespective of whether it's going to be complicated or costly and things like that, adhering to the standards, like for example, adapting to IEC 62351 standards addressing, which takes care of the security protocols and things like that. So adhering is a very important thing to the standards, but it brings in challenges of implementing the standards is not very easy in a kind of real-time environment. Illegal configuration, this is one of the more major problems actually, because when the configuration is to be done, even if the authentic person is doing a configuration change, let us say, if that particular configuration is not done correctly, then it may maliciously do that. See, this is one of the major problems of the insider threat, what is called as the insider threat. That is, there is a great disgruntled employee who is not happy with the system or something like that. He wants to go and change some configuration. He will go and change it because he has the authentication. But how systems can withstand such kind of changed environment. So they have to have appropriate keys which are built into that. Like, solutions can work in parallel. There can be RTUs with one RTU which is some configuration change, another RTU which is nearby can keep a check on this RTU. So we need to build certain systems for this. It is a little complicated environment. So there is a challenge in environment. These are all research components which are existing actually. The procurement of devices is one of the major problem in my opinion, because when we talk about a multi-vendor, multi-stakeholder environment, the procurement of device is a very complicated thing, because whether the new device which you are procuring from somewhere, because the vendor is different and protocol is different maybe and things like that. So there can be some backdoor entries into this. So sanitizing the environment by adding a new device and certifying the device for its appropriateness into the system is a little complex thing. So it may take time, it may get involved cost, manpower and things like that. So there are typical challenges involved in this particular thing. This is one of the, in my personal opinion, is one of the very important component actually, the manpower for security. Like today, even with this knowledge of security, how it has got its ramifications of damages and things like that, the appropriate manpower who are equipped with security skill set knowledge, cyber security knowledge, and electrical system knowledge, that is a domain knowledge, is a very difficult thing. Those kind of components are not actually taken care. Even the policy makers are introducing that you need to have security managers and security inspectors and things like that. Security audits need to be done on a regular basis. Capacity building programs have to be done. So the only way that it is solution is that there is certain responsibility with the vendors, there's a certain responsibility with the management, certain responsibility in terms of the users. They have to be appropriately skilled, and capacity building has to be done on a regular basis. So there are typical challenges associated with that particular thing. So having spoken many things, one single most component associated with this system to address the cybersecurity challenges is basically lying in the training and skill development. It's very, very essential in my opinion. I will be failing in my duty if I don't address this particular issue of training and skill development, especially in the area of the intelligent electric, that is the ICS and electrical industry. Because most of the manpower deployed in electrical industry, even today, okay, even with the addition of intelligence, have no or very little understanding in the area of ICT and connected cyber security. So every individual, including the lineman, in my opinion, in the complete manpower hierarchy of the system, or the managing director of the system also, should be equipped with information connected with the cyber security and the ICT environment which is currently there. It's a very essential component actually, but somehow it gets missed out of that. That becomes a very essential thing. It's very important to address this at the education level, in my opinion, because the route at which every individual who joins an organization comes through passing through a certain education qualification. So that qualification time itself, if the training and skill development is added into the system curriculum itself, it addresses this particular issue in a larger sense, in my opinion. Like, so education establishments, institutions have got certain responsibility in that particular direction. Next, upgrading the necessary skills. See, obviously you have to start sometime. You cannot shed the existing manpower and get to a new set of manpower. So existing manpower has to be appropriately raised in terms of their necessary skills. It's a very most important thing. So skill development, skill upgradation models comes under the training component. One of the greatest need of the hour is to mitigate the adverse situations in the field. So how do you bring in this training? This is a very important thing. So that level of training component to mitigate in the adverse situations, because most of the attacks are basically adverse in nature only. You cannot, okay, these 10 attacks are, I have understood, and if I am able to take care of this, it is, I'm quite safe. No, 11th one will come tomorrow. 12th one will come next time. So you don't know when it is going to come. It's like a natural calamity, like not disaster situation like. So how do you address the adverse situations in the field? So I just wanted to highlight certain components, I mean certain standard bodies. I feel everyone should be aware of this, and then there are a lot of information which is available in the public domain, each of the organization, and several organizations do address this particular thing. IEC is one of the at the bottom most, then NIST in US, they address a lot of issues connected with the cybersecurity challenges. Anyway, I will share this particular thing. I don't need to talk much about this part of it. There are several standardization bodies. India also has several agencies to look into this particular aspect. And then security standards are very important. In the security standard, there are three types of security standards are there. One is a security standard while building the component, hardware, software, and various components. There are security standards which are to be adopted. Second one is the operation level. During the usage of these components, there are certain standards, how they have to be utilized, how they have to be logged, how do you identify that a particular device is malfunctioning. These kind of things need to be addressed. The third one is in terms of process building it, management and the process building it, the way in which it has to be handled, who has the authority, who has the capability, and who is how many people are to be authorized and things like that. So for that, several standards are there. I personally feel that every individual in the organization has to be trained in these security standards appropriate for that particular functions which they are supplied with. Right? So having said these various components, various aspects which I have talked about, I just wanted to, in summary, what is my conclusion? We did see some history of electricity and how it has migrated. And today, what we are seeing in intelligent electricity, we are not yet entered into the intelligent electricity system. We are in the process of smart grid only, smart environment. Next up is going to be intelligent systems like the development of process systems and betterment of electricity in terms of usage to bring in a better quality and better availability and at an affordable system like. Then various security challenges and then various standards and various bodies which are there like. It is very clear that there are clear differences between ICS and IT systems. So it is not just enough that if we have only IT specialists in an ICS environment or just build tools and solutions which are appropriate for IT systems. So security at least have to be looked at in an ICS environment differently like. That's very important. We have seen various things for that. It's very important to have an ICS security test bed. That's why I spent a little bit of time of test bed aspects, because especially in a real-time environment like IE or a smart grid and things like that environment, this type of a test bed is a very essential component without which you will not be able to study how the behavior of an actual ICS system in practice like. So in conclusion, I must say that adding intelligence to the ICT intervention raises the various cybersecurity issues which needs and associated challenges that needs to be addressed. Of course, these challenges does not end today or tomorrow or day after tomorrow. It is keeps on coming, and we should keeps on addressing that particular thing. One very important component which makes our life easier to address this is basically training and skill development upgradation plan. In the right from the day one of education itself, bring it in, then cybersecurity can be addressed in an appropriate manner like. That's the kind of thing. Or we will be in a position to address those kind of things at any given point of time. This opens up a lots of opportunity. The opportunity, challenges are there means the opportunities are there. Opportunities are there to researchers. There are a lot of research components which exist. There are no solutions, true solutions which are available. And developers, we need to have a lot of developers which are required specific to who have understood the domain knowledge. So electrical engineers are in big need for these kind of things. Then system integrators are required because there are multi-vendor situation. I need to take this, and then give an integrated solution. Then business and trainers at the end is a very, very important aspect. There is a lot of opportunity for this. That's all I have today. I'm open for questions now.
Any questions from the participant side?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Please introduce yourself and you can ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. This is
Yeah.
Priya Kupri from SRM Institute. I'm a research scholar.
Okay.
Sir, my question is that as the approach in IT and ICS sector is different. So if we are incorporating security in the ICS, so it will bring the issue of latency. But in ICS, we are time critical. So
Correct.
how we can provide the security keeping in the mind latency? We don't want the time also to be exceeded, and we want to provide security also. So how we can approach to the mitigation strategies?
Correct. So it's a very valid and very good question. Actually, we while implementing some security issues in IEC 105 protocol over the RS-232, I mean sequential serial line, we have found this particular problem. Like, no, it's a very important thing because see, this latency issue comes into picture. There are two components in that. One is your electronic device, which actually runs the algorithm which is required for the security component. The second one is the communication component. So the communication, what is the speed at which the communication happens? So what is the latency of the communication itself? So my algorithm of the security component has to function within the limits of the latency which are there in the communication and the latency of the particular electronic device. So that means to say, in this ICS kind of environment, you need to sometimes re-implement the security algorithm or put a different algorithm to take care of that particular one, which can execute within the time of that particular latency which is available for you. So if that is not available, obviously you have to change your hardware or your system, higher speed communication, better computing electronics device there, okay, or put it in a parallel environment so that you will be able to execute in a faster way. Like, so it requires a different environment. So it's actually even today in many parts implementing the security features in an ICS environment is a research topic.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Actually, there's one more question, sir, from Veerasundaram.
Okay.
Do you want to unmute yourself and talk? Veerasundaram?
Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir. I have a doubt, sir.
Tell me.
Yes, sir. So, as a electrical engineering students, so those who are completing their final year,
Okay.
along with the electrical background, what knowledge they should have in the cyber security, and which area they have to be more specialized so that they will be industry ready, sir?
Okay. So this is also a very important point. See, this is the point which I mentioned in the last few slides with reference to the training and where the skill set availability has to be taken to the education setup itself. And a true electrical engineer now in future, in most of the places where an electrical engineering candidate has to be taken into that, into the real field environment, most of the electrical gadgets or most of the electrical systems today are ICT enabled. Okay, so obviously electrical engineering students, when they graduate, they should be upgraded with certain information technology and the security components in their curriculum itself. Now, what kind of threats can be there? What kind of algorithms are coming into picture? What kind of protocols are used? Does this protocol has got certain vulnerability? So some of the features of this particular thing, that is why in my opinion, in electrical students must be introduced with SCADA automation and cyber security components associated with the SCADA and automation environment. So I personally feel that if they have not been introduced these kind of things, they should be advised to take certain courses which are associated with the security component. They don't need to worry about how the actual security layers function, or actually the security functions, like for example hashing, how it works. They don't need to worry about it. Like encryption algorithm, how it works, they don't need to worry about it. But if encrypted, this data can be secured, that needs to be known. And encryption is which algorithm of the encryption, if it is adopted, it is most difficult to break that particular thing. These kind of programs need to be introduced to those engineering graduation level itself, in my opinion. Like, okay, so if it is not introduced, it is advisable for those candidates, those students who have not learned this, they should take up certain courses in this field. There are certain organizations do offer some courses of this nature in a short-term basis, basically for SCADA environment. What kind of courses? Like CDAC offers some courses, some seminars, some workshops. These kind of things, if they attend, they will be able to upgrade their skills. When such a kind of situation arises, they will be able to address that, or they will be able to understand that, or they should know where to look for. That is where I mentioned certain locations in which who are all working, standard bodies and agencies who are working on the SCADA security side, or ICS security side. Like, so these slides I will share it. So if you go through, if they go through those locations, they will be able to get much more information which is directly connected with ICS kind of environment. I hope this answered your question.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from the participant side?
I have put in my email ID in the last slide. If anybody has got a question in future also, they can always communicate with me. I'm always available for this.
Yeah, that's right. I think we will also try to collect the questions and forward it to you.
Absolutely.
Sir, it's a very good presentation, sir. We have thrown open so much of possibilities for youngsters to go for research and to understand the whole scenario. And as you rightly said, with the involvement of ICT and ICS, so many new technologies coming in, the power system is becoming much more complicated, and we'll have to do in real time. All these seminars would have given good thought processing. I mean, like, thought experiments, like,
Yes,
people can
that's
think of further entering into this field.
correct.
And really, it is an eye opener. It's a good lecture of the day. And we really appreciate you, sir. We really thank you, and really thank PRDC for deputing you for this session. I personally thank you for the wonderful presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Most welcome, sir.
On behalf of KCG College of Technology, I would like to thank Mr. Ganga Prasad, Chief Technical Advisor, PRDC Bangalore, for his wonderful and informative talks on introduction about intelligent electricity and cyber security and security in industrial control systems, some of the challenges faced on security implementation in IE. I hope all the participants take away the technical insights shared today, sir. Sir, especially your slide design is excellent, sir. It's very the flow, the way you get into that is very excellent, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Sure. Most welcome.